This one might upset the true cult black metal fans, but this is my top 5 black metal albums of 2023. Welcome, metalheads. I'm the host of Heavy Metal Philosophy and writer for Metal Digest, John Barbas. Make sure you stick around to the end of the episode for this week's riff of the week. Please let me get this one caveat out of the way before we jump into the top 5. You see, I like my black metal to be artsy. And if you saw my black metal versus death metal episode of the podcast, then you already know what my arguments are. But if you want a succinct summary, let me give you this right here. On balance, I think death metal is better on average because the floor is so much higher. But I think the ceiling is way higher for black metal. You know, when black metal's bad, it's really bad. But when it's the best it can be, it is high art and it can reach levels that death metal can't touch. In other words, death metal that isn't the best is still usually pretty fun. It's kind of like a B horror movie. But when black metal isn't good, it's unlistenable. So you'll see for my picks for the top 5 best black metal albums of 2023 that I went with the really artsy picks. In fact, several of these albums could easily have been on the top of the list last week for the best progressive metal albums of 2023. So if you like your black metal raw and DIY and lo-fi, well, this isn't going to be the episode for you, and that's okay. But if you like ambitious and progressive and unique sounding black metal, then this is the episode for you. So without further ado, let's do the top 5 best black metal albums of 2023. Number 5, Yellow Eyes, Master's Murmur. Shout out to Mr. Garcia for reminding me about this one. What an incredible record. It was a complete surprise, not only because they didn't announce the record, they just dropped it in our laps like total G's, but also they surprised us with the sound as well. This is a very strange and unsettling album, and the instruments typically just ignore all of the black metal conventions. Even with the instruments ignoring the black metal tropes, it still sounds like black metal because of the vocals. The vocals firmly rooted in black metal, but just everything else is so different. Like there's this 12-string guitar that's got this tone that's unlike anything I've ever heard. And then the string section in Tremble Blue Morning, it sounds like an empty funeral for a Ronin whose deeds will never be known. To be honest, this record did not make me feel good. It's unsettling. It may not have made me feel good, but it gave me a lot of different feelings. It's very powerful, and that's why I think it's one of the best. Number 4, Cggs Grov, Fires in the Fall. Now, death metal guys, they love to roast black metal bands. They say black metal doesn't have riffs. Hi, I'm death metal guys. But Cggs Grov's got riffs. Riffs for days, and outlandishly good lead guitar work. In fact, this might be the best lead guitar work I've heard on any black metal album in recent memory, much less 2023. I mean, the guitar solos on this are just and then there's the vocals. I rarely ever love the vocals on a black metal record, but Justin's vocals on this one, it's like the lyrics that he wrote, which are also excellent, aren't adequate enough to describe properly his frustrations with the world that he's observing. And so, therefore, there's this anguish in his scream that it becomes a part of the message and not just a genre trope. You can hear the frustration in his voice. And did I mention I love the lead guitars? The songs might be solidly black metal, but the lead guitars, they have this almost traditional metal sort of melodic and harmonic sense with these soaring melodies. It reminds me of the early guitar virtuosos, but they never go on too long. They never get pretentious with it. They just maintain this level of excitement, and each subsequent solo makes you even more excited for the next one. Between the riffs, The vocals, the tight songwriting, it just doesn't really get much better than this. Number 3, Enslaved with Heimsguard. When I wrote the review for this record for Metal Digest back when it came out, I said, and I quote, "This album has seemingly endless range. It's hard for me to imagine a black metal album being more ambitious," end quote. And at the time that I wrote that was true. However, that was before I heard the album that I'm going to pick number 1 today. But don't take that as a slight to Heimdall. This record rules. A rare 9 out of 10, and it's on my best of the year list for a reason. There's so much going on. Let me paint you a picture. This record begins with the gentle jostling of the waves as ships slowly make their way through. But then the war horn hits, and then you get like this Dream Theater-like prog section that was totally unexpected from Enslaved, and then just a barrage of super aggressive black metal. And as the album flows, they move into Opeth-like folk sections. Later there's prog organs and celestial synth. They even play some sludge metal. It's pretty remarkable how many tools they have in the tool chest. Without sounding chaotic and disjointed, it still sounds like a cohesive offering. And for a music nerd like me, it was an absolute pleasure to listen to this. I can't praise this album enough. If you love black metal, don't just stream this album. This is one you should own. Number 2, Wfir, American Gothic. First of all, the novelty of a Wild West themed black metal band immediately piqued my interest. You're telling me that there's a frontier themed black metal album? Okay, count me in. But novelty will only get you so far. The music has to be good as well. And I'm happy to report that the music is really good. I'm loving this new wave of American black metal bands infusing American folk into the music, like Wfir, Panopticon, El Cetos, Black Braid. And while Panopticon and El Cetos are more doing their Appalachian folk thing, Wfir is heading further west. These are tales of suffering on the frontier. And again, I want to reiterate that it's not just the novelty. American black metal bands are finally starting to forge their own identity. And sure, the Western-themed instruments on this album make it sound unique even amongst their peers, but you can take bands like Wolves in the Throne Room or the aforementioned Yellow Eyes and Cggs Grov, and you can hear that they're all doing their own thing. They're not playing what they play because that's what you're supposed to do when you make black metal. They're playing what they feel. And Wfir might just be the pioneers. And now here we go, the number 1 heavy metal philosophy black metal album of 2023. Number 1, dude, Heimsguard, Black Medium Current. Picture this. You're a child. You're visiting your aunt and uncle. You grew up in a very conservative, fundamentalist household. And your uncle is the cool family member. He's the one with long hair, and you can swear at his house, and you're allowed to watch the forbidden TV shows. And then one day, you're digging through his record collection, and you find this avant-garde, progressive rock album from the 70s. You spin this record and it blows you away. You've never heard music like this before, and now you spend the rest of your day listening to it because you're mesmerized. Now, I've had that feeling a few times with records that I've discovered, but never have I had that feeling from a black metal record. That is until I heard Black Medium Current. The difference between this album and your more standard black metal album is readily apparent on the cover art. There isn't a forest scene with the corpse-painted figures screeching in the background. Instead, it's a scene in space with alien planets and colorful geometry. And the music is equally as divergent as the art. It's very psychedelic. It's like a black metal space opera. And the space theme seems appropriate because this album, it sounds like they're searching for something, like they're explorers, rather than the typical black metal lamenting existence. And while it's still got the edge of black metal and it's heavy at times, this record is mostly beautiful. This isn't an album for raging, it's a record for reflection. They're not trying to be coarse or embrace abjection like normal. When you listen to Black Medium Current, this is what I mean when I said earlier that black metal is capable of being high art. This is high art. And before we play the riff of the week, which by the way is from a band not on this list, I just want to ask you a question. So far, every one of these best of the year episodes I've done, people have been in the comments saying, hey, what about this album? What about this band? And I think that that's great because it just goes to show how many awesome records we got this year. With that being said, I expect it'll probably be even more so when it comes to black metal. You know, black metal is so diverse. So I expect for people to say, hey, what about Immortal? Hey, what about Sulfur Aeon? So tell me what you think. What were your favorite black metal albums of 2023? And if you want to hear the overall album of the year for 2023 episode, make sure you're subscribed so you can catch that one next week. Please do not forget to vote in the Nik Nocturnal Metal Awards for 2023. I'll have a link in the description. And this week's riff of the week comes from another album of the year contender. I think this band will be on a lot of people's number one slot. We've got Panopticon with Cedar Skeletons. And if you want to catch another one of these genre episodes to see what I think are the best of the year for other genres, just click right here if you're on YouTube. Audio only, links in the description. But most importantly, read philosophy, listen to metal. I love you.